Hi everyone, my name's Daryl and welcome to the Fit After 50 YouTube channel. So in this video, I'm going to do an introduction to Phase 1. The Fit After 50 YouTube program is basically a 4-phase program, with each phase lasting 4 weeks. Each of the phases will get progressively more difficult. So Phase 1 is really for those that haven't worked out much at all or have been off for a long time. So if you're in relatively good shape, you might want to consider waiting for Phase 2 or find another program. In Phase 1, we'll be doing full body workouts 3 days a week, and there will be a total of 6 exercises. Each of the exercises do require dumbbells, so that is a required piece of equipment. Just a quick disclaimer, I am not a certified fitness professional, so if you choose to do these workouts, you do so at your own risk. All right guys, so for the first exercise, we're going to be doing something called the dumbbell press. It's primarily for the chest. However, your triceps do get involved a little bit in this exercise. So for beginners, I would probably recommend anywhere from 20 to 30 pounds, maybe even a little bit less, depending on how big and strong you are. I'm going to be using a 25-pound dumbbell. So this exercise, you're going to do it laying on your back, and there's kind of a benefit for doing the exercise on the floor is that you get a little bit of assist from the floor with your elbows. So we're going to have our knees at about 45 degrees when we do this exercise. As you go down, you're basically going to kind of curl the weights up like so. Your back should be flat on the floor. Your head should be flat on the floor. Your feet should be flat. And then basically we want to be able to do 15 reps of this exercise. So during week 1, we're going to be doing 15 reps at each exercise. So for the weight, you need to try to make sure that you don't do a weight that's too heavy. You want to be able to do at least 18 to 20 repetitions. The first week, we're really just trying to figure out the weight, and you don't want to overexert yourself. Here we go. Back flat on the floor. Your elbows at 90 degrees. Basically your arms straight out. And 1, 2. Yeah, so when you're doing this exercise, you want continual motion. You don't want to stop at the top. You don't want to stop at the bottom. And you also don't want your elbow hitting the floor, right? So it should stop right before it hits the floor and then back up again. With this continual motion, this is called time under tension. So you don't want to give your muscles any sort of break while you're doing this exercise. And that's called the dumbbell press. We're going to, in Phase 1, we are going to do 15 reps. We are going to take a little bit of break, and then we are going to do 15 more reps, and we're going to move on to the next exercise. So I do want to mention something. In the description of this video, I have this nice workout sheet. And on this workout sheet, you're going to be able to write down the weight. So how did that weight feel? Did it feel about right? If it felt a little heavy, you might want to go a little bit lighter. If it felt really light, you might want to go a little heavier, but go ahead and write the weight down. So when we start week 1, Phase 1, you're going to be able to know what weight you should be doing. All right, guys. So the next exercise is for the legs, and it's basically called a squat. Now, I'm going to show 2 versions of this exercise, and the reason why is because the second version is a little bit easier. You want to make sure that as you're doing these squats, we lose flexibility as we get a little bit older. And we also tend to have a little bit more pain in our lower back as well as our knees. And so if you do feel any sort of pain in your lower back or in your knees, I would recommend that you try the second version of this exercise. I would also recommend that you go lighter than you think you really need to be, because you really don't want to have that pain. Sometimes if you go lighter, it's a little bit easier. All right, so I'm going to do, for this exercise, I'm going to do 20 pounds on dumbbells. So I'm going to have my feet about shoulder width apart. I'm going to have the weight in my hand. I am going to take the weight and I'm kind of swing it up to my collarbone, kind of shoulder area. You can kind of use this in cradle and create a nice platform for the weights to go. Then you want to go down, trying to keep your back as straight as possible, trying to move your glutes back just a little bit, Okay, and get into this position right here, trying to keep your back straight, and then up. As you push up, I really want you to think about your hamstrings and your glutes making that push. Okay, again, down and up, down and up. Okay, so that's how we want that exercise basically to look. You do want your feet flat on the floor as you're doing the exercise, so you don't want to roll up onto your toes. Nice and flat. Okay. All right, so the second version of the exercise, instead of a squat, it's called a sumo squat. So this is a little bit easier to do. I did 20 pounds, as I said. I'm gonna do maybe 30 pounds for the sumo squat. So on the sumo squat, you have your feet a little bit wider. You can have your feet flared out. You can also flare out your feet for the squats too. It does make it a little bit easier. Puts less stress on the knees as well as the lower back. You take the weight, you cradle it like this, rest it up against your chest and your stomach, go down and back up again. Down, back up. Once again, continual motion. Down, back up, down, back up. Feeling the muscle activation in the glutes and in the hamstrings. Okay, so that's the second version of the exercise. If the squats did bother your lower back or your knees at all, maybe consider the sumo squat. Also maybe consider lowering your range of motion. Okay, and the next exercise for the larger muscle groups, this exercise we're going to target the upper back. This exercise is called the Unilateral Row. I'm going to be using 20 pounds weights with this particular exercise. Basically what you want to do is put the weight kind of in front of you here. You want to go up, it's almost kind of in a lunge position. Your back leg should be relatively straight. Your front leg will be bent a little bit. You can kind of put and rest your arm or your hand on this leg. Takes a little pressure and weight off the lower back. Take the weight and then pull back. One. Okay, and you should feel that you're using your back, your upper back, and your lats to do this exercise. Kind of like almost like a bow and arrow kind of look to it. So you want to pull back and down. Pull back, down. Once again, continual motion. We're going to do 15 repetitions of this exercise during week 1. So when you do this, think about how the weight felt. Can you do 18 to 20 repetitions of that exercise? If so, go ahead and write that weight down, because that's what we're going to be doing during week 1. All right, guys, so that was the major muscle groups, and basically we did chest, we did legs, and we did back. Now we're going to move to the smaller muscle groups. So we're going to start off with shoulders. We're going to do an exercise called the Y raise. On these smaller muscle groups, you're not going to do as much weight. And I know we weren't doing very much weight even on those larger muscle groups. We'll get to be doing more weight later on, but we just want to get our bodies prepped. Okay, so for the Y raise, I'm basically just going to use 10 pounds. I'm going to have my feet about shoulder width apart. They're pretty much straight. I have my hands out to my sides, my palms facing each other. And you are going to then raise the weights kind of in a letter Y position. So there's this thing called the front raise. There's this thing called the lateral raise. And so we're basically just splitting the difference between those two exercises. The Y raise kind of targets both muscles in the front of the shoulder and on the side of the shoulder. So it's a kind of a nice combination exercise. Now, when you're doing this exercise, once again, you want to have continual motion, and it's really important for this exercise that we're not swinging the weights, we're not using our body, we're not doing any of those things. We're not letting the weight move us, we are moving the weight. So, once again, 1, 2, 3, So consider how that weight feels. Can you easily do 18 to 20 repetitions? Because that's what I want you to be able to do. So if that's the case, go ahead and go over to your worksheet, write down that weight, because that's the weight that we're going to be using during week 1. All right, guys, so our next exercise is for our biceps. And I know for a lot of people, that's a very important body part, so we don't want to miss out. I'm actually going to be using a smaller weight than kind of what you would think should be able to use. I'm actually just going to use 10 pounds. And the reason for that is because we're going to do this exercise a little bit differently than maybe you've had in the past. So once again, for this exercise, we don't want to swing our body at all. We don't want to let centrifugal force do the work, okay? You really want just your biceps. Now, the other important concept that I want you to focus on is your elbow. So when you're doing this bicep curl, I don't want the elbow moving forward or back. I want it basically pinned to your side and not moving at all. And that will basically just emphasize the bicep. And if you notice, that's about as far up as I can go. And so you really, unless you're like double jointed or something, you really shouldn't be probably going up any more than this. And then down, all the way down, and then back up again, and then all the way down again. Once again, continual motion back and forth. Of course, we would do both at the same time. So your palms are facing away from you. We're going to be going up, keeping those elbows pinned, not moving against the side, and back down all the way, up, back down all the way. So on that particular exercise, how does that weight feel? That one might actually be burning a little bit more than any of the other exercises, because we're really, as we're pulling that weight in, we're really emphasizing that bicep right there. So you might actually feel that burning it a little bit, which is actually a good thing. Okay, everyone, so this is the last exercise that we're doing. This is the 6th exercise. And this exercise is called the skull crusher. It's basically for the triceps, which is, once again, is a smaller muscle. Actually, your triceps are a little bigger, believe it or not, than your biceps. And so, yeah, so when you flex, really your triceps and your biceps make up that muscle that you see. And so you want to make sure that you work both of those muscles. All right, so I'm gonna use, once again, I'm just gonna use 10 pounds for this, I'm demonstrating. But once again, I can actually do a little bit more weight on this tricep exercise than I can with the bicep exercise, believe it or not. So, as I mentioned, this is called the skull crusher. So we are going to be on the ground again. We are going to have our knees at about 45 degrees. Put the weight down on your sides, over your head. Now this is called the skull crusher. We don't want to crush our skulls. So make sure you have a good weight. Make sure you're not sweating at all. You're going to have the weight overhead, and you are going to go back, kind of on either side of your skull, and then back up again. Now what I want to see, what I want to make sure that I see is I don't want the elbow flaring out, right? I want the elbows to stay close to one another as you're moving back, so that the distance between your elbows shouldn't change. Your elbows, once again, shouldn't be moving back and forth. They should be staying in relatively the same position, and you're really focusing on that tricep muscle as you're going back, and then as you're going, lifting back up again. So down and up, down and up, one continual motion, and we will be doing 15 reps of this particular exercise. So how did that weight feel? Did that weight feel just about right? Go ahead and write it down. For week 1, that's what we're going to do. And that's basically all 6 of our exercises for phase 1. We're going to be modifying a little bit on the number of reps that we're going to be doing from week to week. So the second week, we will actually decrease the amount of reps that we're doing. So instead of 15, we'll do 12, but we are going to try to increase the weight. So a little trickery there. So we're going to try to increase that weight to give our muscles a little bit more of a workout. Third week, we're going to increase the reps back to 15 and try to maintain the weight that we moved to on week 2. So that'll be kind of fun. And then on week 4, we're going to increase the weight again, but decrease the amount of reps. And so from week to week, we're going to be trying to change things up a little bit just to get stronger. Phase 2 of our workout, I don't have that video up yet. I will have that video up soon, but that's going to be a little bit different from phase 1. And that phase 2, instead of doing the full body workouts 3 days a week, we will concentrate on different body parts, and we'll be doing that 4 days a week. So a little bit more of a workout. I would recommend that as part of this workout, you also add a little bit of cardio. So we are working out Monday, Wednesday, Friday. So maybe on Tuesdays and Thursdays, add a little bit of cardio in, maybe even 3 days a week. You really want to, as we get a little bit older, you really want to emphasize weight training, because unfortunately, as we get older, we start to lose muscle mass and we start to gain fat. And so you need to battle that muscle mass loss by weight training. And so we don't want to lose too much muscle mass, and we don't want to lose too much strength as we get into our 50s. Okay? So anyway, that was phase 1, the intro, and I look forward to seeing you guys when we start the live workouts on November 16th. So we will be doing the live workouts every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, starting at 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And so I really hope to see you then. If you're watching this after those workouts have started, of course, these workouts are all on demand, and so you can watch them at any time. So anyway, I hope to see you week 1, phase 1 on that first workout.
I've seen a lot of change, been through a lot of pain. Some things are not the same as they were a year ago, but all will be okay. I move on each and every day. The past is where it stays. Way back